So I don't mean to brag, but I've been thinking a lot lately. You see, I've only been in one relationship my entire life. It lasted 4 months and nothing particularly comedic happened, so there's no point to bring it up at all. Except, before it began, I actually had a crush on her for about 6 months, actually. It was a long one. But what made it all the more infuriating is when we finally got together, I figured out that she had a crush on me for roughly the same length of time. It was essentially two characters from a sitcom getting together in the season finale, only for them to have already broken up by the time the season's begun again. And it's ridiculous, right? I mean, this fear that we have of, like, you know, being rejected potentially, it is the most irrational fear that anyone could have, ever. Am I right? Like, it's nothing bad happens. Rational fears are things that can harm, potentially kill you. That's what rational fears are. Like, being afraid of snakes, that's a perfectly rational fear, given that we live in Australia, the land of snakes and things that snakes can eat. That's all that Australia is. That's a rational fear, but being afraid that a crush will reject you is not rational at all. It's like, hey, I asked this girl out today. Oh yeah, man, how'd it go? Well, she said no, and then she sunk her fangs into my flesh. I'm quite frankly lucky to be alive. But the worst part is I still have this fear. And I can't explain it at all. Like, the worst that happens to you if someone rejects you is you get a little humiliated. And that's it. Like, we've all been humiliated far worse in the past. We've all had that word that we think we know how to say, but then it turns out we've just been reading it a certain way our entire life. With me, it was the opposite. The word that I, for some reason, didn't know how to pronounce was, ironically, the word lisp. And the word lisp is one of the cruelest words in the English language. The people that have it can't say it. Who thought that one up? Not me. Because I had only ever heard this word from people who had lisps. So as a kid, a lot of my classmates had lisps. I'd go up to them and be like, hey, what's wrong with your voice? I was an inquisitive child, but I was also kind of an insensitive child. Inquisensitive, we'll call it. And they would say, I have a lisp, just like that. So naturally, I always said the word as lisp. Until, I don't know how I figured out that I was wrong. I either heard it from a friend, a parent, or read it somewhere. And my first thought wasn't, oh my god, I feel like such an idiot. My first thought was, I wonder if the word was originally lisp. And people with lisps kept saying the word lisp, and people without lisps heard these people say the word lisp and thought, let's just autocorrect that. That was my mind. That's who I was as a young child. But my life wasn't all mispronouncing words and being kind of insensitive to my classmates. I used to play soccer on weekends. Well, I wasn't very good at it, so to be more accurate, soccer played me. And we were at practice one day, and the coach was going through the coach's favourite pastime of making all the kids run laps, or as I might have said, laps. And there was a couple on a hill with a pet dog. And I ran past, and the dog, full pelt, started chasing me, like barking, like that. And right around the corner, it gave up for some reason. I wasn't much of a challenge, apparently. But it wasn't a greyhound. It wasn't a Rottweiler. It was a Dachshund, a sausage dog. Literally, and by definition, the wimpiest of all the dogs. And it made me its bitch. Finished the lap, and the coach said to me, wow, you must be getting better, Alexander. That was the fastest lap you've ever run in your life. He hadn't seen the dog. He was being a little inquisitive, but I mean... And I was not about to correct him, because it is a very sad state of affairs when, at any point in your life, sausage dog is a perfectly rational fear. You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for